Hi, this is a beautiful morning at the lake. There's very little wind. The sky is blue, very blue, and the lake is calm. I'm going to make this video in English so all my English viewers can understand. For those who are watching it from Hong Kong, I hope your English is adequate and sufficient enough to understand what I am talking about. First Day Came by Martin Niemöller. First they came for the communist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Niemöller also wrote of guilt and hope. Thus, whenever I chance to meet a Jew known to me before, then as a Christian, I cannot but tell him, "Dear friend, I stand in front of you, but we cannot get together, for there's guilt between us. I have sinned, and my people have sinned against thy people and against thyself." The last lesson, told by a little Alsatian. This morning, I was very late getting to school, and I was afraid of being scolded because Monsieur Hamel had said he would be quizzing us on the participles, and I didn't know the first word. It occurred to me that I might skip class and run afield. The day was warm and bright. The blackbirds were whistling at the edge of the woods. And in the meadow behind the sawmill, the Persians were practicing. Everything seemed much nicer than the rule of participle. But I resisted the urge and hurried towards school. Passing the town hall, I saw a group of people gather in front of the whole board. For the first 2 years, that has been where we have gotten all the bad news, the battles lost, the demands, the commands, and I thought without stopping, what now? Then as I ran by, the blacksmith, Watcher, who was there with his apprentice reading the postings, called to me, "Don't rush, boy. You have plenty of time to get to school." I thought he was teasing me, and I was out of breath as I reached Monsieur Hamel's. Normally, when class starts, there's noise enough to be heard from the streets, as desks were open and shut. Students repeat lessons together and loudly with hands over ears to learn better. And the teacher's big ruler knocking on the tables. "Let's have some quiet." I was hoping to use the commotion to sneak into place unnoticed, but today all was silent, like a Sunday morning. Through the open window, I saw my classmates already in their seats, and Monsieur Hamel, who went back and forth with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and enter amidst the great calm. You can imagine how flushed and fearful I was. But no, Monsieur Hamel looked at me evenly and said gently, "Take your seat quietly, little friends. We were starting without you." I hopped the bench and sat by my desk right away. Only after I had settled in did I notice our teacher had his fancy green coat, his ruffled shirt, and his embroidered silk cap he only wore on inspection or award days. Also, the whole room seems oddly solemn. But what surprised me most was at the back of the room, where the benches were always empty, now sat people of the village, quietly like us. The old Hauser with his tricon, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and some others. Everyone looked sad, and Hauser had brought his old primer, worn at the edges, which he held open in his knees with his glasses resting on the pages. While I was taking all this in, Monsieur Hamel stood by his chair in the same grave, gentle voice with which he had welcomed me told us, "Children, this is the last time I will teach the class. Orders from Berlin requires that only German be taught in the school of Alsace and Lorraine. The new teacher arrives tomorrow. Today is your last French lesson. I ask for your best attention." These words hit me hard. Those beasts. That's what they had posted at the town hall, my last French lesson. Yet I hardly knew how to write. I had learned nothing, and I would learn no more. I wished now to have the lost time back. The classes missed as I hunted for eggs or went skating on the Saar. My books that I had always found so boring, so heavy to carry, my grammar text, my history of the saints. They seemed to me like old friends I couldn't bear to abandon. It was the same with Monsieur Hamel. The idea that he was leaving made me forget his scolding and the thumbs of his ruler. Poor man. It was in honor of this final class that he had worn his best Sunday outfit. And now I understood why the old men from the village would gather at the rear of the class. They were there to show that they too were sorry for neglecting to attend school more. It was also a way to thank our teacher for 40 years of his fine service and to show their respect for the country that was disappearing. I was pondering these things when I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What wouldn't I have given to say that vaunted rule of participles loudly, clearly, flawlessly. Instead, I tangled the first words and stood, hanging onto my desk, my heart pounding, unable to raise my head. I heard Monsieur Hamel said, "I won't scold you, my little friends. You must already feel bad. That's how it is. We always say, 'Bah, I have time. I'll learn tomorrow.' And now you see it has come. It's Oza's great trouble that she always puts off learning until tomorrow. Now people will be justified in saying to us, 'How come you pretend to be French and yet don't know how to read or write your language?' You're not the most guilty of this, my poor friends. We all have good reason to blame ourselves. Our parents did not press you to learn your lessons. You preferred to have your work in the fields or at the mill to earn some more money. Myself, I'm not blameless. Haven't I sent you to water my garden instead of work? And when I wanted to go fishing, didn't I give you the day off?" Then, from one thing to another, Monsieur Hamel spoke of the French tongue, saying it was the most beautiful language in the world, the most clear, the most sensible. That we must keep it ourselves and never forget it. Because when a people, if they hold on to their language, it is like holding the prison key. Then he took a grammar text and read us our lesson. I was stunned to realize how well I understood it. Everything he said seemed so easy. I believe also that I had never listened so well and that he had never explained to us so patiently. One might think That poor man wished to give us all his knowledge to fill our heads in a single try. After grammar, we move on to writing. For this day, Mr. Hamill has prepared new examples, written in beautiful round script. Friends, Elsa's, friends, Elsa's. They look like little flags floating about the classroom, hung from the rods atop our desk. It was something to see everyone set to our work, and so silently. The only sound was the scratching of pens on paper. Once some beetles flew in, but no one paid them any attention. Not even the little ones, who were assiduously tracing their figures with one heart, one mind, as if theirs also were French. On the roof, the pigeons cooed softly. When I heard them, I said to myself, will they be forced to sing in German too? From time to time, when I raised my eyes from my writing, I would see Monsieur Hamill still in his chair, staring at the objects around him, as if he wanted to memorize exactly how things were in the little schoolhouse. Imagine, for 40 years, he had been in the same place with his yard before him, and all classes likewise. The benches and desks were polished, worn, and used. The walnut trees had grown, and the hops he planted himself now climbed around the windows to the roof. How heartbreaking it must be for the poor man to leave all these things, to hear his sister packing their things in the room above. They would have to leave the country the next day, forever. All the time, he bravely kept class to the very end. After writing, we had a history lesson. Then the little ones sang together their ba, e, bi, bo, you. At the rear of the room, old Hauser put on his glasses and, holding his primer in both hands, chanted the letters with them. It was obviously a great effort for him. His voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that he wanted to laugh and cry. I do remember that last class. Suddenly, the church clock struck noon. During the RJUs, we could hear the Persians' trumpet beneath the windows as they returned from their exercises. Monsieur Hamill rose colorless from his chair. Never had he appeared so large. My friends, said but something choked him. He couldn't say it. He turned to the board, took a piece of chalk, and using all his strength, he wrote as large as he could. Vive la France! He stayed there, his head resting on the wall, and wordlessly used his hand to motion to us. It's over. You may go. In the Bible, New Testament, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 to 8. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on the day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. There's also a French saying, La vie rue la patience.